The challenge begins. Crowd inside the underground gym roared with excitement, the sound of stomping feet and shouting voices echoing off the metal walls. The smell of sweat, blood, and energy drinks mixed in the air, heavy and wild. Everyone had come for the same reason, to watch the Mama champion, a man known for his brutal knockouts and ruthless temper, display his strength once again. His name was Dax Hunter. He was younger, taller, and carried muscles carved from years of violent training. He walked into the cage with fire in his eyes, slamming his fists together while the crowd cheered his name. Dax was not just feared. He was worshipped by those who loved violence. But in the far corner of the gym, sitting quietly with his back straight and his hands folded, was Keanu Reeves. He had not come for attention. He had not even come to fight. He was there for something else entirely. He had been invited by a friend who told him this gym also trained young kids who needed guidance and discipline. Keanu believed in helping and giving light where there was darkness. What he did not expect was that Dax would see him and feel threatened. The champion smirked when he noticed Keanu in the crowd. "What's the actor doing here?" Dax shouted loud enough for everyone to hear. Laughter erupted from the fans. "He thinks he can play fighters in movies, but in real life, he'd last 10 seconds with me." Keanu remained calm. His face gave no reaction, but inside, he felt a quiet sadness. Arrogance like Dax's did not inspire the younger fighters that poisoned them. Still, Keanu had no intention of stepping into the cage. Then Dax pushed further. He leaned on the cage and pointed at Keanu. "Why don't you prove it, Hollywood? Come in here, unless you're scared." The crowd cheered, sensing drama. Phones came out, lights flashed. Keanu stayed silent, his calm eyes fixed on Dax. But when he saw the young fighters in the back, their faces watching closely, something shifted inside him. This was no longer about ego. This was about teaching them a lesson, one they would never forget. He stood slowly, walked toward the cage, and stepped inside without a word. The crowd exploded with shock. Dax laughed. "This will be quick. I'll finish him in seconds." Referee, stunned but unwilling to stop the moment, called for the fight to start. The bell rang. Dax charged forward, fists flying, his muscles straining with every punch. The crowd screamed with excitement, convinced the fight would end before it even began. But Keanu did not move with panic. He flowed like water, his body calm, his eyes steady. He blocked. He stepped aside. He let Dax waste his energy in wild swings. And then, with the precision of a man who had trained not for fame but for discipline, Keanu struck. One clean movement, one perfectly timed counter. Dax hit the mat hard. Unconscious before his body even landed, the room went silent. The clock read 28 seconds. The Mama champ, the man everyone believed unstoppable, was down. Keanu stood still, breathing quietly, no celebration on his face. He looked at the crowd, then at the children in the back who watched with wide eyes. Finally, he reached down and helped Dax's limp body sit up, signaling for water, for care, not for shame. And in that moment, the silence broke not with cheers for violence, but with awe for humility. Keanu had not fought to win. He had fought to remind them that strength was nothing without respect, and the real story was only beginning. Asterisk. The silence after the Storm's gym remained frozen in disbelief. Dax Hunter, the undefeated Mama champion, was sitting on the mat with dazed eyes, his pride shattered in less than half a minute. No one in the room had expected it. The crowd that once cheered his name stood in stunned silence, phones shaking in their hands as they recorded every second. But Keanu did not bask in the victory. He did not lift his arms or scream in triumph. Instead, he knelt beside Dax, steadying him with a gentle hand. "Breathe slowly," he said calmly. "You'll be fine." The crowd's whispers began to grow louder. "Is this real?" One voice murmured, "He's just an actor." "How did he do that?" Another asked. 28 seconds, someone else said. "He knocked him out in 28 seconds. The young fighters at the back of the gym stared in awe. They had watched Dax for years, believing arrogance and violence were the keys to strength. But what they saw now was something different. Calm discipline defeating rage. Dax, his pride, burning hotter than the pain in his jaw, pushed Keanu's hand away. "Wait. You just got lucky," he spat weakly, his voice cracking. Keanu stood slowly, his expression soft but steady. "Luck has nothing to do with respect," he replied. His words were simple, but they carried weight. Some in the crowd clapped nervously, while others remained speechless. Keanu looked around, meeting the eyes of the young fighters. Strength is not about how hard you hit, it is about how much control you have over yourself. Real strength is measured in kindness, not in anger. The room grew quiet again. Many of the young fighters lowered their eyes. Ashamed of how much they had once admired Dax's arrogance, Dax struggled to his feet, supported by one of his trainers. His face was pale, his pride cut deeper than any injury. "You embarrassed me," he growled. "This isn't over." Keanu tilted his head slightly, his voice calm. "This was never about embarrassing you. This was about showing the truth." Dax clenched his fists but said nothing more. He stormed out of the cage. Leaving the crowd buzzing in confusion and shock, Keanu remained still, standing in the center of the cage, his calm presence filling the room. Finally, he bowed his head slightly and stepped out, moving toward the young fighters in the back. A boy no older than 15 stepped forward, his voice trembling. "Sir, how did you do that? How did you stay so calm?" Keanu smiled softly. "Because fighting with anger blinds you. But when you fight with clarity and respect, you see everything." The boy nodded, his eyes wide with understanding. As the crowd slowly left the gym, people whispered about what they had seen. Videos of the fight spread across social media within hours, millions of views piling up as the world watched Keanu defeat a professional fighter in less than 30 seconds. But Keanu did not care about the attention. He left the gym quietly, walking into the night with his jacket pulled tight against the cold air. His heart was heavy, not with pride, but with concern, because he knew this was not the end. Dax's anger was not going to knit, was growing. And a man, consumed by pride, would not let such a moment pass easily. The fight was over, but the real battle had just begun. The storm of pre-death next morning, headlines across the internet screamed with disbelief. Videos of the fight had gone viral overnight. KeanuReeves drops Mama Champ in 28 seconds, the captions read. Clips replayed endlessly the wild swings of Dax, the calm deflections of Keanu, and finally, the clean strike that dropped the champion to the mat. Some laughed, some cheered, but others raged. Dax's loyal fans flooded the internet, claiming the fight was fake, that Keanu had cheated. The referee had been biased. But the video showed the truth clearly. Keanu's calm had silenced the storm. In a small apartment across the city, Dax sat staring at the screen, his jaw clenched so hard it ached. Every headline felt like a blade. His phone buzzed constantly with messages, some mocking, some pitying, none comforting. His trainer entered the room cautiously. "Dax, it was one fight. Let it go. You'll bounce back." Dax slammed his fist on the table. "Let it go? Do you know what this means? I'm the champion. I can't lose to a man who doesn't even fight for a living. Everyone is laughing at me." His trainer sighed. "The man beat you with control. It's not something to be ashamed of. Maybe you should learn from it." But Dax's pride burned too fiercely to hear wisdom. "No, I'll make him pay. I'll prove to the world that KeanuReeves is nothing but a fraud." Meanwhile, Keanu moved through his day quietly. He went to the grocery store, greeted strangers kindly, and lived as he always did with humility. But even as he carried his simple bag of vegetables home, he could feel the weight of eyes on him. Strangers whispered, pointing, "That's him. It's the guy who dropped the champ." Keanu sighed softly. He had never wanted this attention. He had only stepped into the cage to protect the dignity of the young fighters who were watching. Dax's arrogance. But the world had turned it into a spectacle. That evening, Keanu returned to the gym not to fight, but to teach. The young fighters were already there, their eyes filled with respect. He guided them through basic movements, showing them how to breathe, how to stay calm, how to respect their opponents. "Strength without control is weakness," he told them. "Anger blinds you, but calm opens your eyes. The boys and girls nodded, repeating the moves carefully. For the first time, they saw fighting not as violence, but as discipline. But outside the gym, a storm was brewing. Dax arrived suddenly, his footsteps loud, his face dark with fury. He pushed open the doors, startling everyone inside. "You think? You're a teacher now?" he barked, his voice echoing. "You humiliated me, and now you're using it to act like some kind of hero?" Keanu turned slowly, his face calm. "I did not humiliate you. You humiliated yourself when you fought with arrogance." Dax's fists clenched. "Say that again?" The children froze, their eyes wide with fear. Lily, the young receptionist at the gym, whispered, "Please, not here." Keanu stepped forward, placing himself between Dax and the children. His voice was gentle but firm. "This is not the place for your pride. If you want to fight me again, it will not be in front of them." Dax sneered. "Fine, name the place." Keanu shook his head. "You don't understand. I will not fight to destroy you. I will fight only to teach you what you refuse to see." Dax's pride flared hotter. "Then you'd better be ready, because next time I won't hold back." He stormed out, leaving the gym in silence. The young fighters turned to Keanu, fear and confusion in their eyes. One of them asked softly, "Sir, will he come back?" Keanu placed a reassuring hand on the boy's shoulder. "Yes," he said quietly. "And when he does, we must all be ready not with anger, but with courage." Because Keanu knew the truth, Dax was not finished. His pride would not allow it, and the real fight was still to come. Asterisk. The rematch days after Dax stormed into the gym were tense. The young fighters whispered about him constantly, their eyes filled with both fear and curiosity. To them, Dax was still a giant, a man of raw power who had once seemed untouchable. Now he had been beaten in less than half a minute, yet his anger burned like a fire ready to explode. Keanu could feel their unease. He moved through the gym each day with calm, guiding them through exercises, teaching them to breathe, to balance, to see beyond violence. But even as he spoke about discipline, respect, and self-control, he knew the shadow of Dax was not gone. Then the call came. It was a message sent through trainers, spread across fighting circles and whispered on the internet. Dax had demanded a rematch. Not in a cage, not in a hidden gym, but in front of a massive live audience. He wanted cameras, he wanted the world, he wanted revenge. At first, Keanu stayed silent. He had no hunger for fame, no interest in proving himself. But when he saw the young fighters watching the news, their faces clouded with doubt and fear, he understood something. If he refused, they would believe arrogance always had the last word. If he accepted, he could show them once again that humility and discipline were stronger than rage, so Keanu agreed. The night of the rematch arrived. An arena filled with thousands of spectators shook with excitement. Lights flashed, cameras rolled, and voices echoed through the rafters. The world was watching. Dax entered first, his face fierce, his body ready. He walked with the arrogance of a man determined to reclaim his pride. The crowd cheered his name, some out of loyalty, others out of fear, and then Keanu walked in. Dramatic music, no raised fists, just quiet steps, calm eyes, and a presence that silenced part of the crowd. Many had come to see him lose, to see the actor put in his place. Others had come to see if lightning could strike twice. The referee called them to the center. Dax sneered, his voice low and sharp. "This time I'm going to break you." Keanu met his eyes calmly. "No. This time you're going to see yourself." The bell rang. Dax exploded forward, his attacks sharper, faster, more focused than before. He had trained for this moment, studied his mistakes, and prepared to destroy. The crowd roared with every swing, every strike, every thundering step, but Keanu moved with the same calm as before. He dodged, blocked, and stepped aside with precision. Every movement was controlled, every action born from patience, not rage. The longer the fight went on, the more Dax's fury grew. Finally, Dax cornered him against the cage, raining down blows. The crowd screamed, believing this was the end. But in that moment, Keanu ducked low, pivoted, and struck with a clean counter. Dax stumbled, his balance broken, his pride crashing into the mat once more. The arena gasped. Silence fell for a split second before the noise erupted, but this time, Keanu did not finish him with a knockout. He stepped back, letting Dax rise. Again, Keanu said softly. Dax roared, charging once more. The fight repeated the wild fury, the calm deflections, the precise counters. And again, Dax fell. Keanu's voice carried across the cage low, but firm. Strength is not anger. Strength is respect. The crowd listened. The young fighters watching from home listened. Dax, panting, bruised, and trembling with rage, pushed himself up once more. But as he stood, his legs shook, and his eyes filled not with fire, but with confusion. He had thrown everything he had, and yet humility had beaten him again. Keanu stepped forward, offering his hand. The fight isn't between you and me. It's inside you. Until you master that, you will never win. The crowd fell silent. Cameras zoomed in. For the first time, Dax hesitated not from fear, but from realization. The man who had ruled with arrogance was facing the truth he had always run from, and the lesson was not finished yet. Breaking the pre-deathy arena buzzed with restless energy. The crowd, who had come for a brutal rematch, was watching something unexpected unfold. This was no ordinary fight. It was a lesson. Dax stood unsteady, his chest heaving, sweat pouring down his face. His pride screamed at him to attack again, but his body betrayed him. Keanu, calm and still, stood in the center of the cage, his hand extended, waiting. Take it, Keanu said softly. Not for me, for yourself, the crowd murmured. Half wanted to see another knockout. Half wanted to see what Dax would do. Dax's hand twitched, but then he snarled, slapping Keanu's hand away. I don't need your pity, he roared. Charging again, the audience gasped. His fists flew wildly, but his strikes had lost their sharpness. Keanu stepped aside, moved like water, and with one simple motion, dropped Dax to the ground again. Silenced, Keanu did not strike again. He did not gloat. He simply knelt beside Dax and whispered, This is not pity, this is mercy. Stronger than pride? The words echoed louder than any punch. Dax lay on the mat, his chest rising and falling, his face twisted not with pain, but with confusion. For the first time, his arrogance began to crack. He had trained harder, fought angrier, pushed further, but none of it could defeat the calm, quiet strength before him. The referee called the fight. Keanu had won again. But this time, instead of cheers, the crowd fell into a strange silence. They had not seen a battle of fists. They had seen a battle of hearts. As Keanu left the cage, he passed by the section where the young fighters sat. Their eyes were wide, their hearts pounding with inspiration. Remember this, he told them. Respect wins where anger fails. Outside the arena, reporters rushed to him, shouting questions. Keanu, how did you beat the champ twice? Is this fight staged? What message do you want to send? He answered calmly, his voice steady. I didn't fight to win. Fought to remind people that strength is nothing without humility. Real power is not in domination. It is in kindness. His words spread faster than the fight itself. Clips of him helping Dax up, of him speaking about respect, filled social media. Millions watched, not just for the fight, but for the message. Meanwhile, Dax sat alone in the locker room, his head in his hands. His trainer tried to speak, but Dax shook him off. Leave me, he muttered. When the room emptied, he stared at his reflection in the mirror. For years, he had believed power was in fear, in arrogance, in crushing others. Now he saw himself beaten twice, not by violence, but by control, patience, and mercy. His hands shook as he whispered to himself, Why? Why couldn't I win? The answer echoed in his mind, though he refused to say it out loud. Keanu had mastered something Dax never had, his own pride. That night, Keanu returned to the gym where the young fighters waited eagerly. Surrounded him, asking questions, begging for advice. He smiled gently, guiding them with patience. Fighting is never about proving you are better than someone else, he told them. It is about proving to yourself that you can stay calm when the world wants you to break. The children nodded, their faces filled with determination. But outside the gym, Dax stood in the shadows, watching silently. His eyes no longer burned with pure rage. Instead, they carried something new out, confusion, and maybe, just maybe, the beginning of change. He clenched his fists, whispering to himself, "This isn't the end." Keanu, unaware of Dax's presence outside, continued to teach the children. But he could feel it deep inside. This battle was not yet finished. Because breaking pride takes more than a fight. It takes a transformation of the heart, and Dax's heart still had a long way to go. The act of kindness days passed after the rematch, but the echoes of it did not fade. The internet was flooded with clips and headlines, yet people were not only talking about how Keanu had won, they were talking about how he had carried himself with calm, mercy, and humility. But while the world admired him, Dax Hunter sank deeper into silence. He trained alone, hitting the bag harder than ever, but each strike felt empty. Every time his fist slammed into leather, he saw Keanu's calm face, his steady eyes, and his open hand offering mercy. His pride still burned, but something else had begun to grow inside him. Shame. One night, after hours of pushing himself to exhaustion, Dax collapsed on the gym floor. His chest heaved, his arms shook, and his eyes blurred with tears he never wanted to admit. Why? Why can't I be enough? He whispered, and that was when he realized something painful. It wasn't Keanu he was fighting anymore. It was himself. The next morning, Dax showed up at the small gym where Keanu trained the children. He stood at the entrance, his broad frame filling the doorway. The kids froze, their eyes wide. Lily, the receptionist, looked nervous, but Keanu, in the middle of guiding a young boy through a basic stance, simply turned his head and smiled softly. "You came." Dax's jaw tightened. His pride wanted him to walk away, to spit insults, to challenge again, but his heart was too heavy. Slowly, he stepped inside. "Why did you help me up?" Dax asked suddenly, his voice low, strained. "After I mocked you, after I tried to destroy you, why didn't you finish me? Why show me mercy?" The room went silent. The children watched closely. Keanu walked toward him, calmly. "Because the world already tries to break us every day. We don't need to break each other. What we need is to remind one another of who we can be." Dax swallowed hard. His throat felt tight. "I don't deserve kindness." Keanu shook his head. "Everyone does. Even the proud. Even the broken. Especially them." The words hit Dax deeper than any punch ever had. His body trembled. For years he had lived as if respect was weakness, as if kindness was a lie. Now he saw the truth. Real strength was in humility, not arrogance. To everyone's shock, Dax's knees bent slightly and his head lowered. "Then teach me," he whispered. Teach me what I never understood?" The young fighters gasped. Lily's eyes filled with tears, and Keanu, with his quiet smile, placed a hand on Dax's shoulder. "Then let's begin." From that day on, Dax returned to the gym not as a champion hungry for fame, but as a student willing to learn. He trained alongside the children, humbling himself, sweating through the same simple drills he once mocked. At first, people laughed. Reporters mocked him for bowing his pride to the man who had beaten him. But slowly the laughter faded, because the world began to see a different Dax, not the arrogant fighter, but a man learning respect. Months later, during a small exhibition match, Dax fought again. He did not roar with arrogance. He did not fight with wild anger. He fought with calm, with patience, with discipline. When he won, he did not raise his arms in pride. Instead, he bowed to his opponent and whispered, "Thank you." The crowd erupted in applause, not for violence, but for transformation. And in the corner of the arena, Keanu watched with quiet satisfaction. He had not only won a fight, he helped heal a broken man. After the match, Dax walked over and bowed his head once more. "You knocked me out in 28 seconds, he said with a small smile. "But your kindness, That's what truly defeated me." Keanu's reply was simple. It was never about defeating you. It was about helping you find yourself. Lights dimmed. The crowd cheered. And the story of arrogance turned to humility, spread across the world and through it all. Keanu remained the same, humble, gentle, and quietly proving that the greatest strength of all is kindness.